Welcome to this edition of Building the DMV presented by Selective Hauling. I am your host once again, Jill Sorensen. This week we are very happy to be joined by the Managing Director of Stream Realty DC, Charlie Smiroldo, and I will bring him in right now. Charlie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a great conversation. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, we're super excited to be here.
So, the first thing I like to do with our guests is get an idea of kind of your personal history. How did you get into this industry?
So if you back up way back when to college, I actually went to school for art and design. And when I got out of school or was getting ready to get out of school, I said, what am I going to do? And, I was like, I studied graphic design, I studied art, but I was doing all this sculptural and ceramics types of work, studio artwork essentially. So I thought I was going to use my hands. So I got out of school, I interviewed for a bunch of residential construction companies. And finally, my mom said, hey, you're not going to move back to Arlington and not have a job. She's like, get out there. And so I was actually, yeah, my mom said, get out there and get a job. So I was actually a laborer on a construction site. I had a
Wow.
broom in hand for about 3.5 weeks until a woman came up to me and she said, hey, she said, what are you doing here? And I said, oh, I'm working, right? I had my hard hat on and my gloves. And she said, hey, give me a call. I'd like to talk to you about maybe being a project manager or working in the office for us. There's a lot of other opportunities out there. I called the woman back. She never called me back, but it was the boost that I needed to get me to go think about what I really wanted to do. And so at that point in time, in the early 2000s, I went to the back of the Washington Post and I said, let me just find a job as an assistant, right? And the first job I came across was assistant project manager for Rand Construction. And so called John Couch at Rand Construction. I said, hey, I'm fresh out of college. I have no experience, but I was president of my fraternity. And I said, if I could lead 45 drunk guys, I could surely come in and handle some construction projects. They laughed at me. They said, we got to bring you in. Like, that's the right personality to have. And so fast forward, I cut my teeth in construction at Rand Construction. Was a great place to learn and to work at for about 5 years. I was lucky that in the early 2000s, I kind of lived through the growth of Rand Construction to what they are today, and was a great education in construction. But really, I yearned for something more than the general contracting life, and kind of get to the other side of the table. And from there, I went and worked for the DC government for 3 years, which was a real great place to kind of call home during the recession that we had, back in 2008, 2009, and did a lot of work over those 3 years. And as things started to pick up, I actually left there, went to First Potomac Realty Trust, which was a great place for me to really learn about real estate and really the operational side of real estate, kind of outside of construction. But somewhere around 2015, maybe, I started to question, I'm not just going to be a construction manager the rest of my life. And I set a goal for myself to own my own office building. And I said, well, how do I do that? Well, I got to get more involved in construction operation side of things, development, and went back and got my master's in real estate. And then we found Stream, and here I am today.
That's awesome. Were you, I guess, was it what you were expecting? Was this the step that you thought that you needed to take, that you wanted to take once you joined Stream?
Well, I often tell people that if I was given this role 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have been as successful as I am today because I wasn't as prepared, right?
Sure.
And I think it takes a lot to recognize that, but I do recognize that. And I think everything happens for a reason, and a lot of things happen because of timing and things out of our control. And it's a perfect fit. They're a growing company where they want people that are young and have the drive to help grow these companies. So it's been a really great fit here.
That's awesome. So, there's a lot of facets, obviously, to the construction industry and the commercial real estate industry in and of itself. So, when people think of construction, they don't maybe realize kind of the back end of it, which is where you guys are, or maybe it's at the front end of it. Describe them for people unfamiliar, kind of with your facet, what Stream does.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I would definitely say that we like to think that we're in the front end of it, right? A lot of things are born out of what we're doing that then create projects.
Hmm.
First of all, I have to say that we always tell people that we're in the people business and not the real estate business, because really we value the people that we have on board, that really create out of that by bringing on good people first. But Stream, we're a real estate services firm, right? So we do everything for a fee, right? Brokerage, whether it's on the landlord side or the tenant representation side, property management, engineering, construction management, fee development. So we like to say that we have every tool in the real estate toolkit. Whether we have every tool here in you know the DC metro area, we may not, but across the United States, we do, and we like to think that we can leverage our national platform because of that. We actually also have an investment management. We actively manage about $900 million worth of equity. So we're able to utilize that and deploy that and basically leverage the institutional knowledge that we gain kind of working in the local markets against that platform. And
Hmm.
so a lot of people don't know this, but because we're kind of new to the market here in DC, we've only been around here like 7 years now. Nationally, we've been around close to 23 years, and we're in 12 markets. We're in all the major Texas markets, right? Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. We're as far west as LA, San Diego, Denver office, see Charlotte, Atlanta, and we just opened a Chicago office.
Wow.
So we're growing, and it's great, and it's all organic growth too.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's neat to see your name now, out there in the DC market more and more. So tell me then a little bit about your role. What do you do at Stream, Charlie?
I always like to say, what don't I do? Right? No, look, I think when I think about like my elevator pitch and kind of who I am, what do I do? I provide leadership and strategic planning for the growth in the DC market, but specifically, really, I'm focused on the construction and development side. Like I support all the service lines. You know, we're a big happy family here. If the leasing team needs help with something, I'm obviously jumping in, solve problems. But I manage the group of people that work underneath me. Any project that relates to design, construction, or development, uh, I'm usually touching it in some manner. Some on the player, some on the coach. Right? It kind of just depends on the type of project.
I love the sports analogy. Anytime we can bring sports into this, I'm all over
Yeah,
it.
cool.
Speaking of, perfect segue. So the JDRF real estate games is something that Stream's been really involved with, and I know you personally are as well. What led you guys to be involved with that, and what does it mean to contribute to the community in that way?
Yeah. So I personally have been involved. I can't even count how many years now. My prior life to Stream, was one of those things where I was an active participant, right? I was a weekend warrior, so to speak, right? And so I was like, let me get out there and run the 5K. And I think it eventually led to me personally saying, like, how can I give back more to JDRF? And I got highly involved on the volunteering side. And then when I came to Stream, it was a perfect segue to say, okay, Stream, we haven't been involved in this previously, but we have, this philanthropic urge to help people. Let's jump in head first, start donating more money, get more people involved. That actually coincided with me taking over as the co-chair 2 years ago of the games. So kind of forced our hand to be involved, because you can't be a co-chair of the games and not have your office involved as well. But it's great because I've learned a lot about the people that work in my office. I know, there's a guy in my office, his fiance is type 1, right? And so like we actually know people that we're helping support in this community. The guy, Adam Singer from Studley, who created the games, he's now a friend of mine. So it directly impacts people that we're friends with, and it knows it's good to know that we're actually saving lives, right? And the money that we're raising is actually going to new life-saving technology. And so it's a great event. Jill, if you've never participated or been a part of this, I'd love to get you a part of it because it's a fantastic day. It's a field day for adults, essentially, right? And there's 3,500 plus people from the real estate industry that get out there, and it's a lot of fun, a lot of competition too.
Yeah, I will say it looks like a ton of fun. I see your posts on it. It really does. We'd love to be involved and we'll have to look at that moving forward for sure.
Cool.
So let's talk about the market now. This has been, 2020, no doubt has been just an absolute roller coaster in so many ways. What have you seen though in the real estate market? If you could look back from January to now, and I guess the rest of the year, what have you guys seen? What kind of a roller coaster have you guys seen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I've seen a lot of people get in really good shape, which has been fantastic to see. So there's some good that's come out of this, in my opinion. But all jokes aside, there was a pause, right? I mean, I think any deal that was in motion, people immediately said, what do we do, right? Let's just not do anything, right? We were actively negotiating a lease for a company, and they said, hey, we smell blood in the water. Let's go back and renegotiate at the 12th hour, see if we can get a better rent, better concessions. And they actually ended up getting that. I think a lot of people there's so much uncertainty out there, right? And whether it's from a programmatic perspective or just like, is my business going to be alive in a year, right? Am I going to get the PPP loan or whatever? So we see a lot of people either doing short-term renewals or you see some people defaulting on leases. And so we're advising our clients like, hey, it's okay to bring us on and let us help negotiate with you. I think a lot of larger landlords are willing to work with their tenants because it's kind of this bird in hand theory. You don't want to let these people go. So, I think that I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of movement here to the end of this year. And, but yeah, I think again, it was just a big pause.
Yeah, absolutely. So before this, the industry was so strong. We had an amazing, 3 to 5 years, if you will. What do you think the biggest drivers will be for this market to get back to, or even, approach that? What will be the biggest drivers to help us see that success again?
Well, I think there's a few things. I think certainty, right? I think everyone, like going back to what I was saying, there's so much uncertainty, right? What we're being told, right? It's just coming at us from so many different angles, right? Right now. So I think you need some certainty from the government, right? Telling us what we can and can't do. And I think there needs to be some alignment, especially in our area between the three jurisdictions, right? Because Northern Virginia, DC, and Maryland, kind of in that area, you have people that kind of cross-pollinate with one another, and so schools and everything like that have to align. So schools need to start opening. I think that's going to hamper a lot of people from really being able to get back to the office if they don't have childcare or schools being opening. I think getting past the election is a big thing. Historically in DC, anyways, there's some things there's some turnover that happens with change of parties and new presidents potentially. And I think a potential vaccine or something that can combat the virus, I think is going to have to come forward. Again, that goes back to that uncertainty part. I think that will help with the certainty piece of it. But I think a lot of people have already written off this year. When we look at like our property management team, they talk about the buildings that we manage in the DC metro area. They're less than 20% occupied right now.
Mm.
So, and most of those people that aren't there aren't coming back till the end of the year. Again, because of those things that I've talked about, because, school year's about to start and most schools around here aren't opening, right? So there's a lot of parents and a lot of folks not going back to work. So I think it's a good thing though, at least from an owner's perspective. What we've been seeing, that growth, we've been feeling it on the back end because construction costs have been on the rise, right? Mm-hmm. Which has been really tough from an underwriting perspective and to get projects off the ground because construction costs have been too expensive. So this could be a welcome pullback. I think as you begin to see the pricing pull back, you'll begin to see opportunities arise. I think people will say, okay, well, I'm willing to take the risk because construction costs have come down enough where I can bear that risk. And it's going to take us a year or two to build the project anyways, and we hope to be out of it by then. So
Right.
I think there's going to be some opportunities that arise out of this as well.
So even with, as we know, schools being closed and people not being able really to physically get back to the office, are you starting to see the desire though for companies to think, yeah, there is some value to having office space and having people together?
Yeah, I mean, I, I think people. I mean, look, 1771 N Street is a project that we're working on, and we're actively touring people that want to be back in the office, right? And I think a lot of people, if you're looking further enough ahead, are not as concerned. Like I think at the end of the day, people want to know that they're safe, right? And so that's the thing that they're always asking about, like, what is your plan? What is in place? Look, there's certain businesses that can be done remotely. I think that's always been the case, right? I don't think you're going to get rid of collaboration, managing your people, the social aspect of office space. Um, there's a lost efficiency as well working from home. At least I feel that. Stream. We've been back in the office at the beginning of June since we were allowed to come back into DC. Wasn't mandatory. It was like, hey, office is open. We did some, 1 week on, 1 week off, and people that couldn't make it in didn't make it in, right? And we have somewhere between 6 and 8 people in here every week or every day during the week. And so I think again, I think time will tell, but people will want to get back to the office here.
What are some of the trends then as you look ahead? Safety, obviously, as you said, is a huge aspect. What are some of the trends in the design of the office and the new office that you're starting to see people more interested in, ask about, and even look at?
Yeah. Well, I think back to my point I was making, the safety piece, right? Like what things are in place, right? That's just like a blanket question that we get across the board, right? The problem is the current code, the current state of COVID and not knowing where it's going to be a year from now, it's making it tough to design and program spaces, right? Because you don't want to over design for COVID and then underutilized space, right? And so I think that has made every and it's really understanding the balance. So I think we think about this in three considerations, and I'm quoting this from my wife. So my wife is a designer, and so I kind of tapped her to get her opinion on this because I'm by no means a designer. But the three considerations that come into play are the space, the human, and technology. So with space, it's understanding how we're going to use the space, and how we're going to collaborate because people are still going to collaborate, right? Maybe the spaces look different, maybe they feel different. And then with the technology kind of intertwined into that, it's like, well, how does the technology change the way that we collaborate, right? Well, obviously, just the way that we're doing this, podcast right now, the Zoom calls, it has added a layer of kind of how we can communicate with people, pitch business, talk with our teams. But tech is going to continue to change, like something cooler and better in 2 years. I mean, if you look at when the iPhone was developed and where we're at today, like it's not that long ago. So I think having the infrastructure in place to be ready to adapt is going to be really critical, and making sure that you think about the word flexibility in everything that you do, and understanding that what we're designing now in 2 years might change, right? And making sure that that's built into place. And then lastly, with the human, it's like, hey, we got to always keep in mind like the employees, their physical and their mental state, and making sure that what amenities and what things are we providing, what outdoor space, what reliefs from like the workday are being provided as part of the built environment. And so as a developer and as an owner, we think about that, right? And even when we're leasing space, it's like, how can we better communicate that to people? What can we offer kind of outside of the built environment within the walls of their office space, but kind of on the peripheral, whether it's an amenity or a park that's nearby or good restaurants or whatnot. So
Absolutely. Yeah, well said, and kudos to your wife for that.
I wanted to make sure.
Absolutely. So, as you said, Stream's been in the region now for about 7 years. Is there a transaction or a specific transactions that you guys are especially proud of recently?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're proud of every project that we work on, and we love every client that we work with. Look, I think for me personally, and the guys that I work closely with, like we're incredibly proud of 1771 N Street. Um, you know, it's our largest acquisition in the DC metro area to date. It's our first, you know, principal transaction downtown. Um, it's a curb to core repositioning project. Literally everything new in the building, except we're leaving some of the travertine on the bookends of it. It's a trophy building. It'll have high-end finishes and amenities, and it'll be best in class. And we're hoping to push the highest rents in this as well. And so, we've been focused on this for almost 2 years now, 2.5 years. We acquired the building in, late, I guess, early 2018. And so we've been through the design and entitlement, and now we've started construction on it. And so we feel like we've gotten through the hard part of like coming up with the plan. Now it's just executing the plan, right?
Mhm.
So we're hopeful with the timing of everything that's going on that we're going to kind of be in a good place to just miss everything when we deliver this building, call it May of next year.
Absolutely. It's been cool. I've seen obviously a lot of your posts, and the companies I work with are on that project too. It's kind of neat to see it, from the bare bones to coming to fruition. It's really cool, and a cool thing about our industry too. So
Yeah.
maybe aside from that, maybe it's related, but what are so transactionally and obviously as a project that's really exciting for you guys. Are there other projects that you're excited about that you guys are working on as well?
Yeah. So we actually have a national client that we work pretty closely with. I'm not going to disclose their name, but we represent them on the property management side in Philadelphia, actually. And so we're doing a 150,000 square foot project on their behalf for the EPA. And it's just it's cool because it's a different city, right? It's fun. We get to take the train up there, uh, different set of contractors. And it's just, big and complex, and it's going to serve a great purpose for the EPA and their mission. And so I think anytime you can combine something that's big and cool with a great mission, it's great to be a part of. And I think it'll add to our resume of what we're able to handle and kind of expand our reach within the mid-Atlantic here and say, hey, you can put us in Baltimore, you can put us in Philadelphia, you can put us in Richmond. We can kind of handle all that here out of the DC metro area. And so kudos to Jason Akers, who's the senior project manager from our team that's working on that project. He's doing a great job.
That's very cool. Now, have you guys seen a reduction in just logistically as far as riding the train up and the different environment we're in? How do you feel like that's affected you guys? I mean, are the trains empty? And I mean, have you driven more, that kind of thing?
So I haven't been up there, but Jason has, and yeah, there's nobody on the train.
Yeah.
Train prices are cheaper, right? I think it's interesting because it hasn't changed the way that we do business, right? We were lucky that we actually had a client that was based out of Israel that we worked on last year, and so we had to go through this whole like different time changes and everything had to be done virtually, right? So we were as prepared as we could be for this event happening,
Yeah.
and we leverage the people that are up there, and it's all about good communication. And but yeah, I think that like our contractor that we hired is on the road a lot. We hired a local contractor from the DC metro area that help us up there, and um, so yeah, I think that and plane rides too. A lot of the folks that are kind of on our national platform, there's certain people that are just like, hey, I'm not flying, and there's certain people that are okay flying, and it sounds
Hmm.
like your things are not quite as full as they used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an interesting time, and Charlie, I can't thank you enough for your insights, your stories. This was really fun to speak with you, and I know our audience will certainly be entertained and educated as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Likewise, I appreciated participating. It's great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for watching this edition of Building the DMV presented by Selective Hauling.